The bar smelled like regret and alien sweat. A human sat slumped over the counter, nursing something blue and questionably legal. His shoulders were hunched, his eyes distant, staring into the depths of his glass as if it held the answers to all his life's mistakes. It didn't. It just held more bad decisions. "Another," he muttered. The bartender, a slimy, tentacled creature with 3 eyes and no patience, slithered closer. "You got credits?" The human patted his pockets. A few lint-covered coins fell onto the counter. The bartender sighed. "Last one." He nodded, took a slow sip, and exhaled. Somewhere in the distance, a brawl broke out. Someone screamed. Standard night at the Rusty Nebula. Then she walked in. She was huge, 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, covered in deep battle scars that only added to her terrifying appeal. Strapped to her back were 2 swords, a plasma cannon, and what looked like a bone club from something that didn't die willingly. Her dark, piercing eyes scanned the room with the intensity of a predator searching for a kill. Her nostrils flared. She spotted him. The human, sitting alone, vulnerable, defenseless. A prime target. Her heart pounded. Her instincts screamed, claim, protect, mate. With slow, deliberate steps, she approached. Patrons parted instinctively. Someone whispered, "Poor bastard." She stopped right beside him. The human barely noticed. He was mid-sip, sighing to himself. "Women, man. You think you know him. Then, boom, you're not ambitious enough, Derek. You're always late, Derek. I faked it every time, Derek." He exhaled. "Unbelievable." The alien warrior frowned. Who was this Derek? Did he pose a threat? No. He was clearly dead. She clenched her jaw. This human had been abandoned, left alone, exposed, and no warrior worthy of honor left a defenseless mate to suffer in solitude. She did what had to be done. She grabbed his crotch. The bar fell silent. Derek choked on his drink, coughing violently. His eyes bulged as he stared up at the massive warrior gripping him like a prize melon. She declared loudly, "This male is claimed. He shall want for nothing, fear nothing, suffer nothing. I take full responsibility for his protection and his pleasure." Silence. Then a roar of applause. Someone whistled. The bartender wiped a tear. "Beautiful." Derek blinked. Then again. What? You are alone. Weak. Without a mate. This is unacceptable. You are now mine." She released him, barely. "I will feed you. I will shield you. I will take you nightly." His brain crashed. A nearby reptilian patted his back. "Congrats, buddy. That's a fine catch. She'll keep you real warm at night." Derek sputtered, desperate to regain control. "Okay, no, wait a damn minute. I don't, what does this mean? What did you just do?" The warrior smirked. "I have invoked the sacred right of vulnerable rescue marriage. It is legally binding on my world. You are no longer alone." His jaw dropped. "You're saying I just got married because I was sitting alone in a bar?" "Yes." She nodded proudly. "You are safe now, little one." Someone snickered. Derek turned to the bartender, eyes wild. "Do something." The bartender shrugged. "What?" "She invoked the right. It's legit. But Did she ask if you accepted?" "Well, no, but..." "Then it's totally valid. Congrats on the sex." Derek's soul left his body. The warrior clapped a heavy hand on his back, nearly breaking his spine. "Come! We must consummate the union." He choked. "The what now?" She hoisted him over her shoulder. "No, wait." Someone raised a glass. "To the happy couple." A chorus of cheers. A loud round of bets on whether he'd survive the night. And just like that, Derek's entire life changed. As the bar erupted into laughter and celebration, Derek was carried out, flailing like a man being taken to the slaughter. His last words before the doors swung shut. "Is this legally binding in space?" Derek's reality settled in hard when he found himself in a spaceship, speeding away from the only planet he knew. He was still upside down, slung over his new wife's shoulder like a sack of stolen goods. He struggled. "Look, I think there's been a huge misunder." A hard slap landed on his ass. Not painful, but firm. Dominant. "Silence, mate. You must save your energy for our bonding night." His soul evacuated his body. She finally set him down in what looked like a private chamber, complete with a massive bed that could comfortably fit 3 bears and a man who had made terrible life choices. Derek bolted for the door. She blocked it. "You must not flee. It is unworthy of a warrior's consort." "Lady, I'm not a consort. I didn't sign up for her." She cupped his face, tilting it up. Her hands were huge. Her fingers wrapped around his jaw like a vice. "Do you deny the honor of my claim?" He swallowed. "Can I?" She narrowed her eyes. "Would you rather return to your lonely suffering?" He hesitated. Technically, yes. He would rather be lonely than married to an 8-foot-tall death goddess. But something about the way she said it, like she was genuinely horrified at the idea of him being left alone, made him pause. She touched his hair, gently, like he was something delicate. "I do not understand human courting rituals," she admitted. "But I know no warrior should drink alone and look so lost." Derek sighed. "Look, that's sweet, but I was just having a bad night. Doesn't mean I need a space wife." Her expression hardened. "You were abandoned. This is unacceptable. You deserve devotion, loyalty, pleasure." He choked. "Pleasure?" She nodded solemnly. "A mating bond must be solidified through physical union." He blinked. "Are you saying we have to do it for this marriage to count?" "Yes." She crossed her arms. "It is the way." He took a deep breath. "Think, Derek, think." "Okay, so let's say I agree. Hypothetically, what happens if I, don't survive?" She smirked. "Then you die as a warrior's consort, honored and satisfied." He wanted to cry. But then something hit him. If she needed a consummation to validate the marriage, then if he could delay it, maybe he could figure a way out. Derek straightened up. "You know, in my culture, mating can't happen right away." Her brow furrowed. "Why not?" He shrugged, playing it cool. "We have rituals. Steps. You know, foreplay." She nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, a test of endurance and patience. I see. What must be done first?" He exhaled, buying time. "Come on, think of some dumb romantic movie cliches." "Well, first, there's a courting phase. You have to win my favor." Her eyes gleamed. "A challenge. I accept." "Shit." She squared her shoulders. "How do I win you?" His brain stalled. What would buy him the most time? "Well, first, we need a date." She grinned. "A battle to test our chemistry?" More like a shared meal and conversation." Her excitement faltered. "That is a disappointing trial. You want to do it right, don't you?" He waggled his brows, pretending to be in control of anything. She grumbled but nodded. "Very well. You shall be courted." Derek silently thanked every god in existence. At least for now, his ass remained unbroken. Derek sat at an absurdly large table while his alien bride meticulously arranged an assortment of questionable foods. Some of them still moved. One tried to bite him. He leaned back. "So, what exactly am I eating?" She proudly pointed to each dish. "This is Gracklaw liver, seasoned with its own venom." This is a scritch egg, best consumed raw before it hatches. And this, she gestured to a steaming purple slab that pulsed like it was considering revenge, is a delicacy from my homeworld. It strengthens fertility. Derek picked up his utensil, which looked suspiciously like a dagger. Right. And, what happens if a human eats this? She hesitated. Some survive. He dropped the dagger. Perhaps, she mused, we should start small. She tore off a piece of something gray and spongy, handed it to him. Derek eyed it, sniffed it, took a microscopic bite. It tasted like burnt regret and motor oil. He gagged. Delicious. She beamed. You are strong. He was not strong. He was barely holding on. She popped an entire wriggling creature into her mouth, crunched down, then wiped her lips. Now! We converse. Tell me of your past conquests. Conquests? Your battles. Your triumphs. The enemies you have crushed beneath your feet. He scratched his neck. I once got 3 months of free cable by arguing with customer service. She frowned. That is not a battle. It is if you've ever been on hold for 2 hours. She nodded slowly. A test of patience and endurance. Acceptable. Derek sighed, rubbing his temples. Look, I don't exactly live some grand warrior life, okay? I had a normal job, normal relationships, normal disappointments. Then my girlfriend dumped me, my landlord doubled my rent, and I decided, screw it, I'll drink myself into oblivion. Next thing I know, married to an 8-foot-tall war goddess. She took a sip of her drink. I see no problem with this. Of course you don't. He threw up his hands. You kidnapped me. She looked genuinely offended. Rescued? From what? She set her cup down with a heavy thud. From being alone. Derek opened his mouth. Closed it. Because shit, that hit different. She leaned in, voice softer. I do not understand human ways. But I know what it is to be without a mate. Without purpose. It is a hollow thing. He did not like how much that resonated. She studied him carefully. Do you truly wish to be alone? He didn't have an answer for that. Instead, he coughed, forcing a change in subject. So, tell me about you. What's your whole deal? Her chest puffed with pride. I am Phyrexia, daughter of the Bluffon clan, champion of the Battle of Krultak, slayer of the dread Maw of Xiphos, and... Hold up. He lifted a hand. I lost you after Bloodfong. She blinked. You do not know the dread Maw? Nope. She frowned. And the Battle of Krultak? Not ringing a bell. Her frown deepened. You are very undereducated in galactic history. Yeah, well, Earth kinda keeps to itself. We just barely figured out space travel. He shrugged. If it makes you feel better, I flunked regular history too. She tilted her head. But you are clever. That caught him off guard. I am? You tricked me into this courtship ritual, did you not? She smirked. A clever warrior knows when to retreat and strategize. I respect this. Derek squirmed. Right. Thanks. Now, she continued, standing abruptly, we have eaten. We have spoken. The next step is clear. His stomach plummeted. What step is that? She gestured to the enormous bed. The bedding ceremony. His brain short-circuited. She stalked forward, eyes dark with intent. Do not be afraid. I will be gentle. I think we need more steps. She halted, confused. More? Yes. Yes. Hygiene. It's an essential part of human courtship. She crossed her arms. Hygiene? Yeah. We bathe before, the bonding. Her brow furrowed. Together? Derek nearly choked on air. No, I mean, no. Separately. Yes. Separately. She sighed. Very well. I will honor your tradition. He let out a breath. Bought more time. She turned, heading to what he assumed was the bath area. Just before disappearing, she glanced over her shoulder. Be ready when I return. Derek collapsed onto the bed. He was so screwed. Derek lay on the bed, staring up at the ceiling. His heart was racing in a mix of confusion, fear, and a weird, inexplicable sense of anticipation. Was he about to get married to this terrifying alien woman? He had tried to avoid it, he really had, but every turn he took seemed to lead straight back to her. Phyrexia, the terrifying warrior who somehow saw value in him. His thoughts raced. Was this his life now? Bound to an 8-foot-tall knife-wielding alien bride who considered his pathetic existence as a human honorable? The sound of water running from the adjoining room broke his spiraling thoughts. It seemed like she was really going through with it. He gulped. There was no escape. A few moments later, Phyrexia re-entered the room, and Derek's eyes widened. She was draped in a sheer robe, but what hit him wasn't her outfit. It was the way she carried herself, as if her presence alone could crush him. Her confidence was electrifying, and it only reminded him how out of his depth he was. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that suggested she was already thinking about how she was going to break him. Are you ready for the bonding ritual? She asked, her voice so smooth it sent a shiver down his spine. Derek swallowed hard. Look, maybe we can just... No. She stepped forward, her body towering over him as she closed the distance. You said you needed time, but now you're mine. He tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. The bed behind him and the wall in front were just too close. Look, I'm not really a quick mover. I don't think you understand the... She put a finger to his lips, cutting him off. No more words, she commanded softly. The time for words is over. You'll learn to submit, and soon you'll realize how right this was. Derek freaked out internally, but did his best to play it cool. There was still one thing he could try. I just need you to promise me something. Phyrexia raised an eyebrow. What? If this is really happening, we need rules. Her eyes narrowed. Rules? Yeah. Derek stammered, grabbing at straws. Like, take it slow, you know? I'm not used to this whole alien marriage thing, and I need boundaries. She looked at him, almost amused. Boundaries? A warrior doesn't negotiate boundaries. Well, I'm not a warrior. He gritted his teeth. I'm just a guy who wanted a drink, not a forever commitment. She leaned down, her massive frame towering over him as she spoke in a low, almost predatory tone. You were vulnerable, and I claimed you, Derek. That is the way of my people. Derek felt something shift inside him. He was no longer afraid of what she might do. It was more like he was afraid of what he might become. Was this really happening? Was he about to let an alien woman dictate his life, his body, his future? Phyrexia stood straight again, reaching for the hem of her robe. Derek's eyes followed her movement, heart racing. She began to remove it slowly, a calculated movement that seemed designed to make him feel small, like a prey animal she was about to devour. Are you prepared for what comes next?